set?
Think so.
Okay. It's August the 11th, 2015. This is a collective bargaining session between Pasco County and the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Local 79. I'm Jim Sherrill. Randy Keith.
Kevin Fulford.
Representing the Teamsters is myself, John Soltis.
Please.
Doug Act Utilities.
Ed Seedzik Utilities.
All right, John, was there any more specific you wanted to pick up? We have a...
I just got a text message, and I know it's kind of a rush thing to do, but no. Does the Dade City Utilities, I'm sorry, the building moving in Dade City from Florida Avenue to McDonald Street, does anybody know anything about that?
McDonald Street's our new IT building, Florida Avenue, so we had an old IT building, and we built a new IT building over there.
I'm thinking that built the bulletin board might have been the old building. Let's do some,
So that's Article 13.
It was our IT building, we didn't have utilities folks there.
I think so, I read it, I came out wrong.
It's IT.
Not even necessarily, I guess, 37301 Florida Ave.
We still have people in that building though, it's not shut down, we just built a new IT center,
Okay.
technology building.
It just came to me a minute ago. There it is, 37301.
Number 8,
Number 8, sure.
East Side Facilities Management.
We may seek to move that. I mean, my steward wouldn't have brought it to my attention if it wasn't the idea of moving it to a new one, so we'll just get that
Okay,
out there, you know.
that won't be a problem.
I don't know, you have a suggestion of where you want to pick up, or?
Yeah, we've got some revised proposals. I'd like to do with you.
Actually, have enough this time.
All right, so on, what I did is I tried to simplify our proposal on the drug-free workplace, because we talked about it a bit. And you'll recall that in the previous version, we had a lot of language regarding it. The testing would be, what I've done is, I've just simplified it in A, there's a reference to the mandatory test positions. It says see below. And then in E, I've just used the definition from the statute that deals with mandatory test positions. And that's who the tests are limited to. So if there are mandatory test position individuals,
All right, Kevin.
as defined by statute, that's the only people that would be subject to the random testing, other than, of course, the DOT that operate heavy CDL people, which is already in existence.
Or heavily or dangerous machine. So is this pasted from?
From state statute. All right, so I'm sure you want to check that language or have your lawyers take a look at it. All right, that's an attempt to simplify the approach to drug-free workplace.
How does that compare to your last one?
The last one I had all the additional language about, you know, the actual procedure itself, and look at the previous proposal, which is, we discussed on 7/15 on page 7. I took out all of the stuff under F. All that's out. I took out the bullet points in E from the previous proposal.
What is the, what's the kind of big push to get this language changed?
Well, they amended the statute, and the statute describes these mandatory test positions for public employees. So all we're attempting to do is comply with the statute, have it reflected in there, and limit random drug testing for those individuals.
Yeah, but there's nothing in the current language that prohibits you from testing these individuals. Right?
But the current language lacks the description of what a mandatory test position is, so rather than have a debate over it, so we'd spell it out. Yeah. On Article 16, we have a modified proposal. I try to provide greater flexibility in the new language in D regarding attendance at meeting. If you work from the bottom up, I just want to point out that when you have the need to have employees at a meeting, and that's pre-announced and discussed so that it could be coordinated, those employees will be released from work without loss of pay. In other words, they'll be on paid time.
Is there a reason why you said employee rather than student in the?
Yeah, because I was thinking of the circumstance where you might want to have a number of employees with you that are not stewards. For whatever purpose, the subject matter may warrant some input from employees. You know, our proposal says, you know, if it's requested by you, we want to have 5 or 6 people there. Give the county notice. We'll try to work out a process that doesn't disrupt the department or division that they're coming from, and then they could be there without loss of pay.
All right, so why is D not conflicting with B? So if D, the difference between D and B is that in D we have to give you notice, but in B, if there's no notice, then he doesn't get paid?
Well, B refers specifically to the stewards, not to other employees.
But the steward's also an employee.
We could clarify that. D was intended to cover not people that are not stewards.
So why are the stewards being penalized?
They're not being penalized. They get to come for representative activity.
If I'm having a grievance hearing, and the steward knows more about the facts and circumstances in the case than I do, because I work right alongside the grievance, and in my hypothetical scenario, the grievant can get paid, or the witnesses can get paid, the steward can't get paid.
That's right, under our proposal.
Doesn't make sense to me.
Well, because the steward's acting in a union representative capacity. They're not acting as the employee.
Well, what's the difference if I?
The employee is just along for the ride because they're either a witness or they're, as you put it, as they're the grievant. And our proposal under D is not to penalize them for that. But the designation as the union steward is when that person's acting as the steward, they're not acting as the city employee, as the county employee.
So you want to punish the steward? I mean, that's the way I view it.
We don't consider it punishment because it's not a change really of the
If
status
anything,
quo.
If anything, it doesn't make sense, because if I say, okay, I have 4 people that I want to attend this grievance hearing, because they're all witnesses to this supervisor having very disrespectful tone, and all 4 of them are going to testify their experience of the supervisor going off the chain. over a period of several weeks because he's obnoxious and rude and everything else. So I can bring those 4 employees in to testify about what they saw and what they heard.
If you coordinate it with the county.
Right, but the steward who was there processing the grievance can't be compensated.
Not by the
Most
county.
places-
They could have been compensated by pool time, but we don't have that really in play. That hasn't been
Well, the language
functioning.
is still there.
But it's never been used. It's
Well, I
never
understand
been
that, I just don't
funded.
want to imply that it's been deleted or something, or is that it's gone at this point, it's still in the contract. But okay, I understand the proposal, it doesn't make sense to me, but we'll look at it.
All right. Probationary employees, we had talked about this language in C. And if the second line down where it says 90 days, our previous proposal had 60 days. But on further consideration, we thought that somebody who is identified as probably being able to get through probation, but needs more time to do it, it's probably better to provide 90 days than 60. So that's the only change from our previous proposal there.
So that's extending 90 days on top of the original 180.
That's right.
Okay, so the, just 6 months and 3 months on top of it, yeah.
On Article 20, grievance and arbitration, although this is all highlighted, it's only to indicate that this is an article that has been changed. But the change is on the page 17. I took out all our previous proposed language that I attempted to pull revisions from the Florida Arbitration Code into, and I just added a reference to it, except as provided, otherwise, except as provided here in the provisions of the revised Florida Arbitration Code applies to these arbitrations.
Where is that change to 17?
On page 17, it's paragraph S. In our previous proposal, we had a list of changes that we were looking for, driven by changes to the arbitration code.
Right now, we don't have any references to the arbitration code. Right? And that if we have a dispute over arbitrability, then, that's typically resolved in the arbitration hearing. Both parties are presented to the arbitrator that they don't even think the case is arbitrable, and the arbitrator will make a decision. And typically speaking, my experience is I will say, okay, well, I heard your arguments, and I'll wrap that all into my decision. It'll be a bifurcated hearing, or first part, I'll just even decide whether it's even something I'm going to explore, hearing on its merits, or I'm going to shut everything down, but all that's going to come out of my decision. Which to me is the most compact, cost-effective way to resolve the matter. I don't think going to court to discuss arbitrability is a necessary process. It's an expensive one, because if you go to court, typically a lot of money is spent by both parties to determine whether it's arbitrable or not, and then if the judge decides that it is arbitrable, then we got to spend a whole bunch more money going back to arbitration, going to arbitration, when we should have just went to arbitration in the first place and had the arbitrator make that judgment call. So in absence of having a legal reason why this must be in there.
Well, I withdrew that language. By making simple reference to the arbitration code, I withdrew our proposal that arbitrability would be.
Well, then
resolved
what does your new S mean, then? Except as provided herein, a provision of revised Florida Arbitration Code 2013 will apply to all arbitrations. But there's no reference in here about arbitrability.
The arbitration code doesn't deal with the sequence or the timing of the arbitration. That's provided for in step 2 of our process. So that's not addressed in the arbitration code. Okay, that's part of the except as provided herein.
Well, I mean, the way I'm understanding this, unless it's in here,
The arbitration code.
arbitration code applies.
Right. And the arbitration code provides for it provides for a dispute over whether there's arbitration to be decided by a court. That wouldn't apply to us because we're providing for arbitration, but it says arbitrability is decided by the arbitrator.
Okay, so then what value does it have? When would your proposed S come into play? Give me some, so I can understand the intent of the.
If we had a dispute over arbitrability, that's a good example right there.
Okay, if we have a dispute over arbitrability, then we go to court.
No, that was in our previous proposal of withdrawing.
Okay, well then, if we have a dispute over arbitrability, then why would, what in the revised Florida arbitration code?
It speaks specifically to the issue of arbitrability being decided by an arbitrator. There was a dispute under.
And rules.
Yeah, I think there was a dispute under Florida law before that over what issues were to be decided by a court and what issues would be decided by an arbitrator. The revised arbitration code, as I understand it and what I've read about it, resolved that dispute in favor of the arbitrator resolving arbitrability.
Well, then why do we need it? Why do we need to change it? Why do we need this language in there? If we're both agreeing the arbitrator has the authority and the power to decide arbitrability, we're both.
Where does it say that in our current language? It doesn't say that.
S that you struck out says when arbitrability is raised by the county with respect to grievance, the issue of arbitrability shall be determined by, and you struck out, but what it said in there, I believe, is the arbitrator. So.
I prefer
I
to
don't
rely
want to
on the
have S struck,
arbitration.
and I don't want to have the new S in, because basically what you're trying to.
All right, let's move on. There's no point.
I just don't.
There's no point debating it.
I just kind of find out where you're coming from, because what you're saying is not matching what the proposal is. If you are comfortable with the arbitrator deciding the issue of arbitrability, it's already in there in S, the current S. By striking that one out and saying that unless it's provided herein, we default to Florida arbitration code.
I didn't strike it out. I withdrew our previous proposal that said it went to court.
Yeah, page 17. The current S is struck out.
Yeah, in favor of the language that says the statute controls, which says it goes to the arbitrator. But we don't have to debate it. If you don't like it, I understand your position.
I'm trying to understand it. S says that it goes to the arbitrator. Why would the current S? Why are we striking that language that says it goes to the arbitrator to put in about a Florida arbitration code?
John, before we debate it further, why don't you read the revised arbitration
I
code?
don't need to. I don't need to, and I'm not trying to sound ignorant, and probably how you're viewing it, but why do I need to when we already have what we want? And if you're telling me that this is what you want too, then I don't understand why you're striking the language out that says that's what we both want, and you want to put something in there that says that unless it's in here, we default to the arbitration code.
Okay, I understand your position. I still encourage you to read the revised arbitration
That's fair,
code.
Tom, we're going to.
We have a new proposal on Article 52, holidays. So we've tried to delineate all the circumstances that would apply when there's a holiday, whether it's the designated holiday. I mean, that's paragraph A, what the Board of County Commissioner designates. An example would be the 3rd of July was designated as the 4th of July holiday, and the actual holiday. And then under the work/leave status column, try to describe the circumstances that could occur and affect an employee. They would either be working, not working, called back in, not called back in. And then if you read below the chart, there's 1 through 5, which is the manner in which they receive a holiday benefit. We're open for discussion on what parts of 1 through 5 would be put in the right column next to each work leave status description.
Well, I don't know if you're aware, but we have a dispute over this very article right now.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. That's why we think it's worth trying to describe what happens in a lot of different circumstances more clearly. That article, I think is just the way it is currently. The practice is just an invitation for disputes and disagreements over it.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it's just been piled on over the years. Who knows? I mean, I wasn't here, but it looks to me like it's something that's been amended and not really thought out too much about the impact of it, but.
So just by way of example, and I'm not asking you to do all this right now, because you're going to want to think about this, but let's just take the first one by way of example. The designated holiday, let's use the 4th of July. Actually, the designated holiday was the 3rd of July. The designated holiday falls on an employee's usual work day, and the employee is required to work the designated holiday. Okay? So if you look down at 1 through 5, what would be your thoughts on what the benefit would be for that employee?
Well, we just put 2 in all of them.
All right, you want to be flippant about it, we can move to the next article.
All right, so you want to be able to kind of mix and match is what you're saying?
Yeah, but you would have the right column that would be what, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or maybe from your point of view would be a combination of a couple of those. That would be the benefit.
I thought in your last proposal, you were proposing to get rid of the day before, day after rule, right? This is a revised proposal?
This is fully revised.
So you want to,
I'd like to know what you think the benefit should be for those circumstances that I've outlined.
Every chance they get.
Those are all the
It's
circumstances.
unusual to me. I've never had a proposal with multiple choice answers before. I'm not trying to be a smart ass, but I mean, it's just kind of unusual. I think it's a new approach. It's kind of like interest-based bargaining or.
What do they want to do now? They want to take it, if the holiday falls on their day off, keep the next day off. What are they trying to do?
It's just peculiar. So you want us to just put the numbers in that we.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and then let's pick up the discussion, when we have your thoughts about what they should be. I could tell you that on our side of the table, we've penciled in numbers ourselves, and we don't have an opinion yet. On our side of the table, there's different points of view depending on what your orientation to it is. So we're interested in where you would start on that, using these examples. We have a revised proposal on Article 53, wages and salaries. We're now prepared to offer the 3% base wage increase for this coming fiscal year. We would start the first pay period following ratification of the agreement. In year 2 of the agreement, since we just simply don't know what the finances would be at that point, we do have the provision that there would be the base wage increase adopted by the Board of County Commissioners when they go through their fiscal year budget for 16-17. But I put in a provision that if that number is less than 3%, you could request that we reopen the wage article for bargaining. So.
Health insurance is open too.
And then health insurance would be open, because there's always the issue of whether whatever wage increase you received is neutralized by the insurance increase. It's good to keep those two things together, in my opinion. But at least it shows you a target that, 3%, if it's 3%, there's nothing to reopen, but if it's less than 3%, you could reopen.
Regarding the paragraph that says the county will establish a performance-based pay program.
Yeah, just about to get to that.
So basically, you get
What was that?
nothing.
I was just about to get to
Okay,
that.
good.
No, you get
Okay,
this,
so
you get
that,
this.
the second
We get that
paragraph
every
of year
day.
2 is it would be our hope to put in a performance-based pay program over and above the base wage increase for that particular fiscal year. The county would determine to what extent it would fund those additional payments. They would be lump sum payments. We don't know what they are at this particular point. And that program would need to be a county-wide program, meaning it would cover employees that are not simply in your bargaining unit, but unrepresented employees as well. So,
Is there an expected waiver to bargain over it?
no, I'm not asking you to waive. That's our revised proposals.
Do you have anything on seniority?
No.
I guess we'll take a break.
Okay. Do you have any revised proposals that we can look at during the break?
Yeah, that, I wanted to just talk to my guys for a second.
Okay. How long do you think?
I mean, we could spend some time with this, or if you want us to just take a quick break to discuss and then come back and then give you our stuff, whatever you think is more productive.
Let's take 10 minutes.
Okay.
Come back at a quarter after.
Okay.
And then if we need to take a longer break after that.
I'll go through our stuff. Yeah.